Hi, it's Kevin. Welcome to Relationship Ready. Please subscribe, like, comment, disagree or agree with me about this. Because today, we're going to talk about heteronormative breakups. So, what do I mean by that? Well, we're going to talk a little bit about heteronormative. We're going to talk a little bit about breakups. There's another episode on breakups that will give you a little more foundation, since breakups are difficult for everybody, whether you're the one being broken up with or the one that's breaking up. It's a challenge for each of us. And part of the challenge are the roles and expectations that have been put upon us of what we're supposed to do, the social norms, the cultural expectations of what we're supposed to do in all parts of relationships, but breaking up as well too. So, breakups, the struggle of when they end. Now, ghosting is an option nowadays, and that may, for some, feel like less of a struggle. But it's still a breakup. The breakup and the difficulty of it depends on the intensity of the vulnerability and how much you have poured into the relationship. And how much we pour into a relationship, as well as everything else about the relationship and the breakup, is set in the structure of gender biases, sexual biases, sexual expectations that have been set up for generations in whichever culture you're in. Now here in the Western culture, from the beginning, like men are supposed to ask women for dates. There's expectations of stereotypes of men being the less emotional and women being the more emotional. I'm going to propose that those stereotypes, although acted out, are systemic in nature. Individually, there are men who are much more emotional in a relationship. There are women who are much more assertive and can ask out and break up much more effectively than men. Now, a way in which to break up that is expected is you can break up through the conversations, you can break up through an action, or you can break up by ghosting or petering things off. Actions that cause people to break up: pushing on those buttons to betray or mistrust the contract that has been developed, as well as being able to de-invest from it, which may cause the other person to want to break up with you, because there's always a balance of one person feeling more invested than the other person. And the nuances of relationships are an entire continuum of vulnerability to not putting yourself out there in vulnerability, of who's in charge to who's completely submissive. And all of those things change throughout. But the heteronormative part is the expectations of men being less vulnerable, less emotional, and getting over breakups quicker. Getting over breakups by moving on and having sex with somebody right away, or getting married right away when they said, I don't want to get married, I'm just not in a place where I'm ready to get married. And then you look at, oh no, is that because of me? No, it wasn't because of you. It was because of some societal expectations of what they were supposed to meet, and the emotions not being expressed. So, in this continuum of relationships, there is expectations that are different within the gender construct for men and women. And one of the stereotype expectations that has been set up and reinforced, which put pressure on both the men and women, is that for men, men have the permission to have sex and relationships for recreation. Women have the expectation to have sex for procreation, not recreation. So anytime women are doing it for fun, for recreation, for enjoyment, then it is shamed and looked down upon. So if there is a violation of a committed relationship with a female, they are shamed and guilt, and women have been trained to participate in it, to intrinsically give themselves their own shame, to beat themselves up for betraying the relationship. If the relationship can have enough communication to not only talk about the intimacy between the two people, but also the societal expectations of the heteronormative expectations of sex isn't supposed to be fun. So why is it fun for males but not females? Do we really want a kid? And the expectation that in a relationship, the woman is looking for a kid. That's not always the case, but it is a societal, systemic expectation. So all that stuff needs to be weeded out and understood that it was set up as a sex construct, a gender construct with a white male bias to give the position of power and the position of least vulnerability to the male, which is supposed to make breakups easier for males and puts the responsibility for breakups on the females, because the way in which males generally do that is they upset or piss off the female enough that, yeah, they have to leave them eventually. But there is such a continuum that we can all do anything we want, male, female, and all non-binaries have options and have always had options, but the struggle of the system has closed off those options and those doors. So it is time to be able to open those doors and allow recreation for females and males without shame. Allow breakups to be okay if you can communicate about, there's something that doesn't quite work here. You don't meet my needs, you don't meet my needs, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be a betrayal. And betrayals can have meaning in understanding what others are looking for. And that maybe it's okay. We just didn't meet each other's needs and we weren't what we were looking for. That creates less trauma and less pain during the breakup. So, if we open up the doors to have all options that are not based on heteronormative expectations, then heteronormative breakups can be something of the past. And then we can have less shame, less expected roles of who's supposed to go cry to their friends and who's supposed to go have sex and move on quickly and move forward without the system's gender bias. So, as complicated and as nuanced as this is, please ask questions. I'm learning and hopefully on my path as well too. So if we understand some of these biases, then we can open up the opportunities for all of us. So the world can be your oyster or your clam or whatever it is that you're into. But don't let yourself get sucked into the biases, and don't limit yourself. And give yourselves the option, and in your relationship the option, to communicate about what are all our options for staying together and breaking up, to help each other be less pained and painful as we do that. So, where do your values sit? What reactions do you have to both the system and to your own past relationships? How much did you buy into and are affected by the expectations for how you're supposed to break up? And how much did you free yourself from those to be able to do things differently and be okay communicating about them? And most importantly, what do you want for you?